Welcome to this 4-module series on emotional intelligence. I'm Angela Nuttall, CEO and founder of the School of Executive Presence and also the Corporate Talent Institute. We hear the world talking about emotional intelligence, but do we really understand what it means? In this 4-part series, we're going to examine what the various definitions of emotional intelligence are, what it really means, how we struggle with it, and how we can learn to develop it and show up with it in the business world. If you were able to watch our 5-module series on executive presence, you got a little inkling of what emotional intelligence really is. So we'll revisit some of that material, but we're going to have a much more expanded view of it in this series. Today's module is very important and sets the foundation for the rest of the sessions. We're going to look at the what and why of emotional intelligence. So we're going to learn what emotional intelligence is, what it looks like, and why we struggle with functioning with it 100% of the time. You'll get a chance to assess your own emotional intelligence and create a quick action plan to get going on a couple of really important goals that you believe that you need to work on. These 4 modules on emotional intelligence are set up to be a mini teach for you. So you'll get some video learning and video segments. You'll also get a downloadable workbook where you can do some reflection, you can do some journaling. I'm going to give you some challenges, and I'm going to give you some experiments to do once you step outside of our virtual classroom. I truly encourage you to get out there and really try these tools that I'm going to be giving to you because they don't work up here. You really have to show up with it out here. So let's go ahead and get started with our first module, and let's start with looking at the definition of emotional intelligence. Where did emotional intelligence really start? Technically speaking, it started with this gentleman right here, Michael Beldock. 1964, he wrote a paper and included the term emotional intelligence. And so we can technically say that Michael Beldock is the father of emotional intelligence from an educational standpoint. However, emotional intelligence really didn't gain popularity until 1995 when Daniel Goleman popularized it through this book, Emotional Intelligence, Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. Daniel Goleman is alive and well as an author, a psychologist, and a scientist who studied deeply what actually emotional intelligence is and how it impacts the business world. Once Goleman came out of the closet with emotional intelligence, he was met with severe criticism from psychologists and educationalists all over the world. And as a result, multiple theories about emotional intelligence emerged. The person who really made it popular and acceptable in cultures and organizations is this fella right here, Travis Bradberry, who came out with the book Emotional Intelligence 2.0. Mr. Bradberry is an author and a consultant, and he works with organizations around talent and tied the concepts of emotional intelligence to organizations. All 3 of these gentlemen have different variations of what emotional intelligence really is. So if we look at Michael Beldock, his thought around emotional intelligence is really tied to sensitivity to others' emotions and vocal responses. So his academic paper that he wrote really was about reactions. Goleman, who took those concepts and really sought to develop those out, defines emotional intelligence like this: to discern between different feelings and label them appropriately, to use emotional information to guide thinking and behavior, and to manage and/or adjust emotions to adapt environments or achieve one's goals. And our charming author, Travis Bradberry, defines emotional intelligence this way: emotional intelligence is your ability to recognize and understand emotions in yourself and others, and your ability to use this awareness to manage your behavior and relationships. Wow, all of these definitions are very overwhelming and have a lot of words in them. Is there a way to simplify it? Yes, there is a way to simplify it. And this is Angie Nuttall's definition of emotional intelligence for today's business person. It's the ability to intentionally compose your emotions so that you can show up like an adult and add value. Now that's simply put. It really does come down to you. That definition is so simple, let's revisit. The ability to intentionally compose your emotions so that you can show up like an adult and add value. It's all about you, my friend, and it's all about you recognizing that you necessarily can't control other people. You can only control yourself and how you manage your emotions and how you respond to people. It's really about getting to the place where we're at peace with ourselves, we're aware of our emotional triggers and the things that set us off, and us being able to dial those in and compose our souls. What does the research say about emotional intelligence? According to various sources of research, 90% of the difference between outstanding and average leaders is linked to emotional intelligence. It's also a better predictor of performance, achievement, and success in life as opposed to IQ. And when you think about star performers, emotional intelligence strengths were 2 to 1 more frequent and 127% more productive than the average performer. So, emotional intelligence also seems to have important connections to situations that people encounter in the course of their daily lives. A recent study by German sports university psychologist Sylvain Laborde and colleagues showed that tennis players with high emotional intelligence were better able to control their physiological stress levels in high-stakes games. The self-awareness around areas like perception, expression, stress management, decisions, conflict, interpersonal relationships, all of those areas are places where competency can be built in the areas of emotional intelligence. We start with a case study on FedEx where a company called 6 Seconds came in and began a process of building emotional intelligence with 106 of FedEx's best leaders. Their work really focused around 8 particular competencies. Enhancing emotional literacy, which means accurately identifying and interpreting both simple and compound feelings. Recognizing patterns in your recurring reactions and behaviors. Applying consequential thinking. Evaluating the cost and benefits of your choices. Navigating your emotions, assessing, harnessing, and transforming emotions as a strategic resource. Engaging intrinsic motivation. Gaining energy from personal values and commitments versus being driven by external forces. Exercise optimism, taking a proactive perspective of hope and possibility. Increasing empathy, the ability to really recognize and appropriately respond to others' emotions. And then the 8th competency, pursuing noble goals, connecting your daily choices with your overarching sense of purpose. What 6 Seconds found was that when they focused on building out these 8 competencies, the outcomes were phenomenal. Building emotional intelligence really had significant increase in particular outcomes: influence, decision-making, effectiveness, relationships, quality of life, and health. This case study is included as part of your workbook, so be sure to read over the details to get what exactly happened and how the company improved. You might be saying right now, well, that's great, Angie, but what does that really have to do with me, and how does this help me? It's helpful to know the research because what it points to is a successful life. It points to being able to navigate through conflict much more smoothly than you have in the past. It means being able to know that you can be in control of your stress levels. You can also improve greatly your interpersonal relationships. You can be able to express yourself in a way that really brings influence and business results. It's about managing your perceptions of yourself so that you can be healthier and happier in life. Every human being struggles with emotional intelligence at some point or another.
Seriously? I can't believe anyone would say that. I am not controlling. And
There are 3 areas where people struggle with emotional intelligence: self-awareness, managing emotions, and wearing the shoes of other people. Let me explain. The importance of self-awareness is probably the biggest factor around emotional intelligence. Just being tuned in to how you're showing up, what you're thinking, and how you're impacting others around you is so key to practicing good emotional intelligence. Well, we're influenced by 3 particular factors: time, desire, and self-discipline. And when one of those factors come into play, our self-awareness has a tendency to go down. So the struggle is really around practicing self-awareness. And when we're not practicing it, it's like looking in a mirror with this bandana over your eyes and guessing that you're showing up okay, that you're impacting people in a positive way, and you're just going about probably stumbling through life whether you realize it or not. Managing emotions is another area where we simply struggle, especially if we're faced with tremendous stress or we're caught up in the hamster wheel of work where we're just going, and we're struggling with time and it wears on us. And when we don't have time, we lose sight of our self-discipline and being able to manage those emotions. We're also impacted by emotional triggers, things that are related to what I call pre-existing conditions. These are situations and experiences that you've had all the way back to childhood, things that cause you to react to a memory and filter your energy into the current situation. And most times that doesn't end up very well. It ends up badly. When we lose control of our emotions, we lose emotional intelligence points. Wearing other shoes isn't about actually literally putting on someone's shoes. It's about understanding from an empathetic standpoint of how people are feeling and reacting to our impact. And many times when you are going about life, you're thinking about you. You're thinking about you and what's important to you, what your values are. And we struggle with this, again, with those 3 influencing factors: time, desire, and self-discipline. But stepping into their view of things, their perception, and their experience with something, and really gaining an appreciation and acceptance of who they are and what they bring to the table. When we're struggling with stress, then that seems to go on the back burner sometimes, and this is where our struggle is. And we get into big trouble from a communication and relationship standpoint because we're not in tune to being empathetic with others. So emotional intelligence is pretty deep. We could talk about a lot of different factors, but for this program, we're going to focus on the factors of self-awareness, managing your emotions, and also being able to step into the shoes of other people. So far, we've learned what emotional intelligence really is. And we also know that it really is about deep self-awareness. As we close out this module, I want you to be thinking about the ABC mindset: abundance, belief, and courage. Those 3 elements will help you to get on your path to developing wise and fruitful emotional intelligence in your daily life. You have everything that you need in order to do it. You have to believe that you're able to do it. And you also have to have the courage to step out sometimes when things are very uncomfortable and do what is right. I hope you enjoyed today's module. It's time to go to work now, so go ahead and download your workbook and start journaling, reflecting, assessing yourself, taking on the challenges, and also doing the experiments. And I'll see you in Module 2.